Today we get to talk about all things Warhammer. Well, at least what I found in this book, which to be honest, wasn't what I was expecting. Welcome to Reading Crossbow. My name is Lana, and today I'm giving you my halfway episode on my co-host Rob's book. Now, every month we each pick a book, and this month Rob's pick was The Lion, Son of the Forest by Mike Brooks, and I picked The Last Magician, but I bought the whole set because I got excited about it. So every month we each give each other's halfway review on each other's selections, and then we both give the full review. So be excited for 2 episodes on The Lion, Son of the Forest, starting with this one. So to start, I want to say this, because I know I'm going to go a bit negative in this halfway review, and before some of you judge me, just before you do, okay? Just calm. All right? Sit down, boys. Not just boys. I know girls like Warhammer too, but I'm just telling the boys to sit down for a minute, just in case. I love all things Warhammer art. So I come from a cosplay background. I love Warhammer cosplay, particularly the Sisters of Battle, and I just think it's beautiful. And I'm going to pull up some examples to show you. This is several of my cosplay friends. Here's some beautiful works of art. I'm going to make sure to put them below in the description. But like, Warhammer cosplay has my heart. I would love to build one someday, and I have been admiring from afar for a really, really long time. I've read a couple of the Warhammer comics because a buddy of mine let me borrow his, and I did not love them. So that was my first foray into, trying out Warhammer. I don't paint the minis, although I've bought some and I have them sitting on my desk. I'd love to paint them someday. I bought them so I could reference how to actually build cosplay armor. So I love the world in terms of like the armor, specifically how beautiful the artists draw these characters, even though they're like grim, but still. So yes, admiration. However, it didn't start out well. So let's talk about this. I'm not going to give any spoilers. First of all, because I can't remember half the names of the characters or the locations or what the hell they did. But yeah, I'm halfway through. So let's start. This book is in 3 parts. It's about 360 pages. So pretty quick read. The print is small, pretty darn small. And it is in 3 parts. So if you're someone who likes to pick up a book, read a little bit here, a little bit there, I particularly love books that have parts because it allows you to do that. So I do want to start by showing you guys a text that I sent Rob, because from the get-go, I was just a bit like, nah. Okay, so here's the text. I sent Robert a picture of page 1, mind you. Page 1. And I said, for fuck's sake, Rob, this is only page 1. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. But now I'm going to preface this. So before any of you start shouting, I know. Okay, I'm going to tell you I know. But it starts out with like, here's some of the words in here. He's a rotting carcass, the carrion lord of the Imperium, held in life by marvels from the dark age of technology, and the 1,000 souls sacrificed each day so that his may continue to burn. Right? Whatever. And then there's more. It gets like more dark. More and more dark. So I just read that. And I texted Rob, and I'm like, come on. Like, I know this is grimdark, but I can't take this if this is going to be page 1, and I have 359 more. But then he assured me that this is just kind of like, I think like a blurb or something. I'm not sure that they do. It's like common. I don't know if they do it in front of every book. So now that once I knew that, it was okay. So, and then also I should tell you that I read part way through part 2. So I stopped at page 185. So I'm stopped at chapter 18. So that's how far I've gotten. Okay. So having said that, just first impressions of the book, someone who's never played with the minis, painted the minis. I've only read a couple comics. I don't know anything, okay? I know a little bit from what Rob has told me because he's like lore genius man. And from what he told me, it was super cool. Like, I was super stoked. So I read Big, Dark, and Nasty thinking, oh dear God. And then, just so you are all prepared, this is what came next. The river sings silver notes, a perpetual chaotic babble in which a fantastically complex melody seems to hang, tantalizing, just out of reach of the listener. Hello, that's beautiful. So I was like accosted with horrible dark words of drowning and slaughter and bloody regimes into a babbling brook that's beautiful, singing silvery notes. And I'm thinking, what just happened? So I don't know really what to say about that, but like, I just felt like, oh no. I just texted Rob telling him, like, I said, for fuck's sake, Rob, this is only page 1, you know, and like, then I read this beautiful sentence, and then I felt really bad. So anyway, so I'm going to give a quick overview, just in my words, okay, about what happens up until page 185 in a non-spoilery way, a very non-spoilery way, since again, I can't remember names of stuff. So basically it comes down to this. There's a Primarch, big bad giant dude. And oh, also I should say that I'm gonna give my versions of names for things. So I think I got Primarch. Oh shoot, Arch maybe. Oh, anyway, I think I got that right. But I'm going to assign other names to other things because this is how my brain did it. I'll explain. Okay, so this dude is a big badass. He is one of the sons of an emperor of some, I don't know, giant galaxy thing. And so he has brothers, and then each of them has like a lineage of essentially clones. Think like clone troopers, but more badass. And like individual more, like, I don't know how to describe it. They're just like, and he thinks of them as sons, and so that's cool. And so he's super old, like 10,000 years old. I don't know. This is how my brain did this. Bunch of cool stuff happened before this book. This is what I know. Bunch of cool stuff. I don't need to know it. Okay? I put it into a category of kind of like he who shall not be named from like Harry Potter, but like that which shall not be known, or that which I cannot remember or ever know. And so when it was too much work for me to have to like figure out what they were talking about from centuries and centuries and thousands of years ago that this person lived, like, and that he's still alive, what the heck, that I should remember those things as a first-time reader, I cannot. And you cannot, in general. So like, for someone first time reading this, whenever I would come across a situation that was like from the past, I would put it into my like that which I do not need to know category, and I would read it, but I would just kind of like gloss. But anyway, I did that a lot. So dude gets frozen sort of in stasis for some reason. I honestly can't remember. I'm sorry, you guys are all going to yell at me. I knew you were going to yell at me. I know you're going to yell at me. And I'm still doing this, okay? I'm putting myself out here. This is my most feared video. I'm so freaking nervous that the internet peoples are going to come after me. And I don't know, call me stupid, or I can't understand it. That's fine. You can do that. Because I don't think I'm going to be alone. So anyway, having that said, book starts out beautiful. Really stunning writing. Mike Brooks does a fantastic job of writing this story. So, Frozen Man, whatever you want to call it, Stasis Man, frozen for some war thing that happened, ends up awakened. Doesn't know he's him yet, though. Missing some memory in some beautiful forest by a babbling brook, peering down at his reflection, trying to remember who he is. Okay? And this is where we get really beautiful imagery and maybe some daydreaming and remembering and cool stuff. Eventually he comes to remember who he is. Along the way of figuring out who he is, he kills some badass monsters. Very descriptive. Cool. I think there's one scene where he like grabs some monster by the horns and hair and throws them and like jabs some other one at the same time with some stick thing. Whatever. It was really cool. Mike Brooks is an incredible writer. I have to say that. And I was taken aback by how cool this was. So, anyway, he starts to remember who he is, starts to realize he's the lion, son of the forest. How cool. He has a million sons. I don't know how many lots. And they're disbanded because a big bad thing happened. They all thought that he, like, defied them or was a traitor. And so in some battle, half of them turned against him and started firing on him. And it was all a big misunderstanding. That's what this book is. So he wakes from his stasis, figures out who he is, realizes a big bad happened. He needs to right it. Also needs to protect the people of this planet he's on. That's his nature. He has to protect, you know, humankind and everything around him. He wants to do that. He's a good guy. But also realizes he needs help to do that. Also wants to kind of clear his name. So along the way, journeying in this planet, he finds one of his sons, a space marine. His name is Zabriel. Zabriel is actually a really super cool character. I liked Zabriel quite a bit, at least as far as I've gotten. Zabriel's cool. I hope he stays cool. I'll be sad if he's not. He has to convince Zabriel to come on his side. So, and convince him that, you know, he was not a traitor and did not turn against his sons. Anyway, so Zabriel, not too much of a spoiler, ends up, I think it's on the back page, something close to this, ends up believing him and decides to support the lion, and decides to aid him in his travels, to clear his name and band his sons back together. For where I'm at in the book, I'm oversimplifying, of course, they are trying to recruit. So I've left off at a point where they are recruiting more, and Zabriel's doing an excellent job of being an ambassador of sorts for the lion, and bringing on his brothers to stand behind the lion, because the evil force that is at bay here is chaos, and a big bad dude named something starts with an S. Sorry, can't remember. And the big bad dude has a good portion, I think, it hasn't talked to numbers yet, of the sons of the lion that have, like, disbanded since they've separated, and some have been corrupted, whatever. Okay, I know that is a bad summary, okay? I know. However, I have notes here about what to talk about on this book that I wanted to cover and why this book was difficult for me. Okay, so let's start with the fact that the names are way too difficult to understand. The names are so tough. So there's a glossary at the beginning of names. And it's I don't know. The name that bothered me the most, I think, on this list is Sina Ap Naharaj. It's like 4 letters or 4 words, and it's just difficult. And the name of the bad dude is Seraphax. And that one's not so bad. It's just more kind of awkward. But like Taral Darrigan, you know, like I said earlier, Sina Ap Naharaj, Jai Tana, and then this one, I don't even, it's like 2 R's in a row. What does that even mean? Kursats. Okay, whatever. But like all the planets were like this too. The different locations, even the names of ships, the names of everything were just like difficult. So I just feel bad because my brain stopped trying to remember since I wasn't familiar with the universe. And I know Rob did a good job picking a book, and I'll explain that more later, but I think this actually is a decent place to start. I just think you'd have to have a notebook maybe and care more, or maybe read a bit of the lore before you started. But for me, who hadn't done that, I just put them into the category of name I don't need to remember. Or I'd start calling things like bad dude who's on fire, or space marine dude who's on the bad side who might actually still be a good guy, or first space marine that the lion found. Although I started remembering Zabriel's name partway through. But in the beginning, I couldn't even remember his name. So that's one of the cool things. Sorry, that's one of the things I wanted to mention is the names of everything are very difficult. Okay. Also, I talked about Mike Brooks being a very good writer at the very beginning of this episode. However, I got very, 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 oh my God, very bored of the writing style. Let's see, I made a note here. Around page 60. And that's when other POVs were introduced. And that's because the writing is way, way too descriptive. I liked that the intro made me think this was going to be like a scary bad book, and then it got beautiful and bubbly and adorable. But like it just got so descriptive that at one point, I can't remember what was happening. Maybe they're selecting weapons, or they're walking up a mountain, I think, to go, I don't know, raid some bad guy's den or something. And it took like 3 pages to get there, and of just like monotonous. Like it just, and when another point of view was injected into this, it was too much. So the story is told from several different viewpoints, but particularly from the lion himself, which is super cool. He's actually really cool. Zabriel, and then Baylor. And then, so these 3 perspectives really round out the book, because we have the lion, who's the main character, and then we have 2 space marines on 2 different sides of the battle. And so we get like the enemy's perspective from Baylor, and then we get the, good guy's perspective from Zabriel. Or what I think is the good guys. This book could change. I don't know. But like this many POVs coming into play was difficult because the chapters aren't named for each character. So each character talks as if they're themselves. So like Zabriel says like, I am walking this way, or I am doing that. They tend to use he more. So like third person a bit more on the lions, but it still goes back interchangeably. So since each chapter isn't listed on who it is, it doesn't immediately identify the location or who it is. So you could read, I counted one time 3 pages in before I actually knew which character it was. Now you can kind of know, and I imagine it gets better as you get farther in. I'm only halfway through, but like until you start to really understand how these characters are written and like the writing style for each character, it is so difficult to know who it is. And I'm in this chapter thinking, when am I going to find out who? And I remember I would like fast forward a bit to be like, whose name is in here? Okay, good. Because I need to know when I start reading something who the character is, or I get completely discombobulated, if that's the word. I don't know. But, so that was another thing with the book. Okay. Another part that was interesting was, for as much as the author is very descriptive, he's also not. So one chapter ended with I can't say too much, but basically some battle stuff. And I told you they're trying to recruit more space marines to be on the lion's side. And then the next chapter, literally the next page, is like they're now flying somewhere. They're flying to another planet. There was no discussion about flying to another planet. There was no lead up to that. And apparently we had advanced weeks, months, I have no idea, into the future. And I thought that was odd. So for someone who's incredibly, overly, painfully, Mike Brooks, oh my God, descriptive, why the hell are we just fast forwarding so much? And then this happens at least twice that I can remember, just in the 185 pages I'm in. So that has been difficult for me, is to keep up with what's happening. So for someone who doesn't know the lore at all, and then to have to keep up with these time jumps is just like a bit too much. And then also to handle the scale of time. So I have some time jumps, which again, I said weeks. It's probably not weeks. It could be days, but like just to not know that they were going to change. But anyhow, also to try to handle the time construct of this is 10,000 years. So I think the lion has actually been asleep or in stasis for like 400 of those years. Maybe that's how long he's been missing. I could have that wrong. Again, sorry, YouTube chat. I did my best. But to try to handle, it feels like thinking about how large space is in my head. Like, how large is space, really? Who knows? How long is 10,000 years? I don't know. Do we even have like recorded history of like handwriting on cave walls that go 10,000 years back? I don't know. I'd have to freaking look it up. And that's the point. I can't know that in a book too, and it's tough. So, moving on. Let's talk about the author. That's next. So I've talked about the author starting off the book in kind of an abrupt way that made me like, I don't want to read this. But turns out they all do that. So not his fault. And then turns out to actually write very beautifully and with really cool words that I had to look up. And so I looked him up because I needed to tag him in a tweet, and he retweeted us. Thank you, Mike Brooks. And then I noticed that his profile picture, I wasn't sure, like when you're tagging an author for the first time, you have to like hope you're getting the right page. So I can't just do it from my phone because you can only pull up like one app on the screen at once, like easily. So like I do it in front of my PC. I pull it from my phone to make the tweet, and then I check to make sure like, is this the actual author's Twitter? Because Mike Brooks has like this really funky mohawk, and he looks like, I don't know, like every punk emo kid I had a crush on in, 2001 back in high school. So, like, I thought this cannot be the author. Like, I don't know why. When I think of, like, Warhammer books, I think of, like, maybe, like, a Brandon Sanderson type. I don't know. Just wearing, like, chinos and, like, a nice knitted sweater or something. Maybe a little George R. Martin-y. But this dude, holy mother, like not what I expected, and that's super cool. And he even like mentions it in his bio, like, yep, the Mohawk dude who writes Warhammer novels. And I'm like, okay, I got the right person. So mad respect for being like a super cool looking human who writes cool stuff. Sorry I dissed your writing later on about it going kind of like too much, bro, but yeah, lots of words, lots of writing that was difficult for me. But wanted to shout out the author there because he was really cool to us on social media, and I appreciate that. Having that said, I wanted to read a passage that I particularly struggled with. All right, this is page 131, so almost to my halfway point. I just singled this paragraph out because this is a great example of why I struggled with the writing, and perhaps again, I'm trying to be like as kind here as possible to myself and others who read this, but I am not familiar with the lore. I am not familiar with weapons or types of animals or locations that are in this book. But even so, I think you should still be able to read it and have a good idea. And I've read this paragraph 3 times, and I think I know what's going on. But it's just written so difficult. Here we go. I'm going to read it to you all. It began with the bound demon, goaded by cybarbs, charged with the soul residues of psychers and sorcerers whose skulls Seraphax had collected. Its bellows of rage and pain resonated through the cruiser's superstructure until they reached the Vox, whereupon they were broadcast as a torrent of noise and corruption at the planet below. Baylor imagined speakers at the other end blowing out in a shower of sparks, systems malfunctioning, and people recoiling with blood pouring from their ears. He had seen it happen. Okay, maybe this book just isn't for me. But like paragraphs like this just be like, okay, like, am I reading this right? Is there like a demon tied to a spaceship with, I'm guessing cybarbs or like hooks in it, and it says charged with soul residues of psychers and sorcerers, which I realized were people who were like psychic and could like do stuff with their minds, like, I don't know. Is this like an electronic connection with hooks? I'm unsure. And it's bellowing with rage and pain as they're flying through space. I'm unsure. And it's bleeding everywhere. The blood pouring from their ears, or people recoiling with blood pouring from their ears because it's screaming so loud. I don't know. But it's like, it's odd. I'm sorry for you all who have to listen to this. I apologize so much, but I know I'm gonna get attacked for this. But again, I cannot be alone. I read a lot, and I don't just read YA. I've read a ton of sci-fi. I've read a ton of fantasy. I got through almost the entire Expanse series before I needed a break from Space Cowboy. I get Space Cowboy. I don't know that I get Warhammer Space Cowboy. I guess I just don't. All right. Let's end with this. do I so far like the story or hate the story? I know I've been so negative thus far. And the answer is no, I don't hate the story. I actually am really loving the story. I really enjoy the lion himself. I like the idea of this like war hero who was in his prime when everybody knew him. Big badass, bigger than everybody else. Space Marines are giants, but he's like gianter. And like he goes in stasis, thinks he's gonna come out the same, and he's an old man. He's a grizzled old man warrior. And he has to come to terms with that. And that's where Mike Brooks does a great job, is he's slower now. Still not near as slow, like compared to like, he's still faster than most Space Marines, even at his age. And it doesn't say, it's alluded to the fact that they're going to talk about it, but like why he aged in stasis when he shouldn't have, or whatever process was holding him happened. But he's coming to the terms with his body not doing what he thought it could do back when. He's coming to the terms with the fact that not only has his body changed, his mind has changed, the world has changed, and his sons have changed. And his old self would have reacted to this news much differently. He would have been more fierce. He would have been harsher with his situation. But knowing the world that he's stepped into, and the fact that some of his sons believe he's been a traitor to them, is too hard for him to wrestle with. And he wants his sons to be on his side. He wants to fix the harm that has been done. And so the story of the lion himself, I think, is really badass and really cool. I love him stepping up, leading his soldiers, fighting for the world that he thinks we should have, protecting the humans, claiming back what should be theirs, pushing the chaos back. That is cool. And from what I understand, I think maybe there's already a book 2 in the works, or there'll be a series about this. So I do think Rob picked a good one to start. I wish I would have had maybe done a little bit more research in terms of like, I don't even know that I could have. It's so vast, the Warhammer 40k, it's everything. But I got it enough to understand that. I understand Zabriel. I understand Baylor, the 2 Space Marines that they focus on. I understand their stories. As much as I went on a rant earlier, I don't need to know the name of the planets. I don't need to know what happened in the past. I don't need to know any of that to understand where these men are in their lives today. And I think that understanding that helps me understand where the book's going to go in the future. And I really, really enjoy the lion, and I'm very excited to see what he does. Having that said, I'm sorry, Mike Brooks, I really am, because I think you're so cool. I did not like the way the book was written. I was pleasantly surprised in the beginning with the beautiful imagery, the beautiful words, the overly descriptive journey, but it just wore out for me. It got to be to the point where I am literally skimming pages with my eyes, thinking, are we gonna get, okay, they're still okay, no fighting's happening yet. Okay, they're on the bridge. Okay, these 2 people they're arguing with each other. Okay, they're still on the bridge. Okay, oh, spaceship is here. Okay, they're probably gonna fight soon. Okay, cool. And that probably happened around page, so 60 is when I started to get bored with the writing. Maybe page 120-ish I'm guessing, is when I started to get like, oh no, and started skimming more. My brain cannot handle the sheer amount of words in this book to describe the least amount of stuff happening. Now, granted, the battle scenes, that's cool. When stuff's happening, it takes a long time to describe it. Cool. But like, I've now seen them trying to recruit Space Marines, I think 3 times, and the story is the same each time. Yes, the lion thinks that he knows you think that he's a traitor. He knows that you think he turned on him. Oh, be prepared. He's gonna look old. I need to see the lion for myself to prove that it's him. Okay, let's come see the lion. Oh, lion, it is you. My goodness, I'm so sorry. And that happens like, I'm like, do you have to tell that again? Can we just say like, oh, the group traveled on and found 2 more, and then they journeyed to this other place, and the brothers began to grow, and, the group began to form. Why don't you say that? Because, like, I cannot read that again. Page 185, please do not make me read that again. Okay. Anyway, my rant is done. I will continue reading. I did have a small moment where I thought, do I have to read this? Can I just fake it? Maybe I can. But no, I will continue, and I hope that my mind is changed a bit more by the end of the novel. And thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, I'm sorry if your ear holes feel like they're bleeding. Please leave your comments below, especially if there's something else that I should read to help me. Even if it's a blog or review, I will do my research. I think Warhammer 40k is pretty cool. I just... not quite sold. So thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time. Make sure to tune in next week as Rob jumps in. He'll have watched this video by then, and we both give our thoughts on this together. Bye all.